haven't been. I see you also detecting. Yeah, of course. So you can just take for free.
Hello mate, what's your name and what is all of this all about?
My name's Kieran and this
Cool.
is about our future.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's the protesting in aid of?
Well, it's sort of, well, this is a flash mob, so it's a silent protest.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is that our voices have been silenced, and that the whole debate has been a complete non-debate over the cuts in higher education funding, and so we're just sort of making a sort of symbolic manifestation of that, while we're also having a massive petition drive to try and get as many signatures as we can in Aber against the cuts.
You make it purely funded by you and the individual student.
Yeah.
You've totally commoditized education. It's no longer a public service.
No.
It's no longer representative of any aspect of this idea that it's a greater public good.
But
it's
of
about
course,
me paying for my own individual benefit.
But that's the issue, isn't it? The societal issue is, to what extent is university the duty of the state to provide? But basically, we've got a government in power who are going to do this. I feel less comfortable, particularly, like I said, after less than a year, talking against something which there's arguments for and against, and I don't think there's a conclusive enough answer.
What I'm interested in about consequences. I think by not funding higher education.
What's the worst case scenario?
What's the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
That in a time where you've got a serious financial crisis and you need to seriously think about how we're structuring government and how we're going to achieve better qualities of social justice, and how we're going to manage a welfare state on lower budgets. We need the humanities. We need people who and at exactly the point we need the next generation to come through on it. Cutting funding.
I'm beginning to be sold. Yeah.
Sign the petition.
On the basis that what you're speaking against in terms of restructuring is basically against slashing funding for the humanities, which is things like language and stuff, as well as what we're doing, and social stuff. And you're right about social justice, to be sure.
It's also
on that basis, rather than on a financial basis, I will sign the petition.
I think what he's trying to do is good for the country. I understand that people have got this criticism against cuts, but you know, we've got the biggest deficit here. We've got to deal with it. I understand that certain sections are targeted more, and maybe they should be, you know, looked at more specifically. But on the whole, the concept, we've got a cut, and I'm afraid, you know, we're all in it together. I mean, my nan, she's been affected. She's not getting a real rate in her pension.
Yeah.
She's not complaining. She's grumbling about it, but she's not going out protesting. Everyone's got that picture. The media puts students are anarchists.
Well, do these look like anarchists? These people?
Well, no,
Are these the faces of anarchists?
How
Do you think we should be more prosperous as a country?
I feel, you know, we are going to be more prosperous. Look at the 80s and
What
90s,
is prosperity?
You know, privatisation.
So privatisation is prosperity?
It is. Housing's very important indeed. Education's important indeed. It makes people more rational, to make people more rational decisions. I know people are feeling we're going to have this cut-back society, what Mick Hucknall said in his song, you know, Reagan, the old man over the hill.
I've been laid up from work, my rent is due.
You know, I can understand people feeling like that. fair enough. But it's going to be all of us in it together.
We're all in it together.
We're all in it together.
Look like that love got a hold on you, but it's too tight to mention. I can't give an unemployment extension, but it's too tight to mention.
You know, I can understand people feeling like that, fair enough. But it's going to be...
But it's too tight to mention. Oh, money.
This university could be struck by a plane.
Yeah,
What
by the
happened
terrorists.
at 11. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What, because of the protesting?
Well, I'm just saying it could happen any day.
It could happen any day. The more learned end of the spectrum. What
Paul's the one.
do any of you think about it? Any opinions at all?
I think it's deeply depressing that Aberystwyth students don't seem to think that any of this applies to them by the lack of support that's here today.
You know, there's this thing about the Welsh Assembly saying that they're going to fund Welsh domicile students and cover the...
Oh, that's the other thing, yeah.
Yeah, do you know about that?
No, enlighten me.
Well, it came out, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, where any student based in Wales, from Wales, the extra cost will be covered by the Welsh Assembly, which sounds really, really good, because it means that if you're from Wales and you go to Cambridge or Liverpool or Manchester, and they're charging £9,000 a year, you'll still only have to pay just over £3,000.
Not bad, is it?
But it sounds good, but you ask where the money's coming from.
Where's the money coming from?
Stop slicing the education grant to universities in Wales. So it means that the infrastructure, the funding for teaching, the funding for all those things that we need to provide first class, top quality education will be affected badly. So in other words, it's all very well if you're a Welsh student and you're going to an English university, but if you're a Welsh student and you're hoping to go to a Welsh university, then you probably have less universities to pick from because several of them will close, and the quality that they're able to offer will be significantly affected.
What do any of you propose could be done to sort the mess out? Anybody?
I think it's got to be harder to get into university. The standards have got to be higher. You've got
So
to
you
work
think-
hard to get here.
And so rather than cut funds, what do you think would be possible? Or
Fewer places in some ways, I suppose.
yeah?
No, they need to increase the budget. They need to increase the... I sort of
Well-
disagree. I think they should increase places, and they should just basically have a much higher budget for education.
Yeah. And so where does that money come from, do you think? So you think tax
We
more,
just need to pay more for education.
everybody pays more,
Yeah, of course.
everybody gets more.
Yeah, it's not some sort of special commodity.
But,
Yeah,
there is a statistic that says because of the amount of university students we have in this country, we make more money commercially.
Exactly, yes.
You know, in business because of that.
So sort of
So-
from a capitalist point of view,
From a capitalist point of view, universities make money for this country.
contribute to our
Definitely.
place in the
And
world.
it's a pin drop. It's a pin drop, the funding for universities compared to what they make commercially when they're qualified.
It's quite strange, isn't it? Because
Short-sighted.
they're trying to characterise education as some sort of commodity, as some sort of
Well,
luxury,
it's the right. It's the right everybody.
rather than something that's sort of, that should really not be a right. Not so much I wouldn't describe it in terms of a right, but something that's fundamental to what you are as a progressive being. That sounds very grand. When you really think about it, it's so depressing that we even have to do this, that we even have to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And people are insane. People are almost pathologically insane at home, thinking that we should, even pay for education.
Yeah.
That we should be paying. We're paying for nuclear submarines. We're paying for wars. We're letting companies like Vodafone off for their tax dodging debts. But we're imposing these sorts of incredibly high costs on people who come from a working class environment. Anyone. It doesn't make any sort of sense, but people think they think it makes sense. I just don't understand.
Can I ask what you teach?
Fine art.
Fine arts. Are you all teachers? Yeah. Artists.
Artist teacher.
Yeah. Artists and
Teachers.
teachers.
I'm doing PGCE.
Yeah.
These kind of cuts in education and the rise of tuition fees really sadden me, because when I trained to be a teacher, I want to be able to have a job.
Yeah.
You know,
It's kind of key.
I know that there's going to be a job for me.
Yeah.
And two, I want to kind of teach to the kind of kids and adults that are like me.
Yeah.
They come from a normal background. They're not people that have tens and tens of thousands of pounds to pay towards tuition fees. They're people that can come into education.